Hey everybody, Brett Legassi here again. This time I'm going to bring you the wide receiver breakdown. Camp's already started. Sorry guys, I had a busy week. Took my wife to a couple concerts. So I didn't get the videos to you in time. However, today I'm going to give you the wide receiver breakdown, and then I'll give you a bonus because I'm going to do an overall breakdown of the rest of the positions in a separate video. I'll be doing that one right after this one, so keep an eye out for both of them to be loaded together. With that said, um, so probably the most interesting position so far to break down was the wide receiver position. Um, the defensive line position, it's more of the inevitable with Cam Wake eventually being 35, eventually being stepping out, retiring, and Charles Harris replacing, and cornerbacks, just the young guys coming up. The only big intriguing question is how long does Byron Maxwell stay? And does anybody come up and replace him in depth? And the offensive line, it's just a matter of who's going to step up, the young, just shuffling. But for wide receiver, it's a little bit of everything. It's a lot of bodies competing for spots. Really only really one locked in technically, and that's Kenny Stills with after getting his re-signed. Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, we're still unsure future-wise, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. But we have 5 names that I want to discuss that are vying for spots, and that's not including Stills, Landry, and Parker. So that's 8 total players pushing for what's probably 5 or 6 slots. So we're going to see what happens here in camp, but it's definitely an intriguing position. And we have guys who need to step up, one who has stepped up and been a beast but needs a contract, some young guys that need to step up, some young guys that are on the heels of those other guys that need to step up. So definitely an intriguing position. A lot of bodies and so many slots. So some could go to practice squad, I'm sure, but let's break it down a little bit, shall we? So let's start out with Devontae Parker, the biggest puff piece of the media this offseason. I know, I've tried not to pay attention to it, but man, it's kind of hard not to get excited about Parker because I was excited about him when he was drafted. The year he came out, I was really excited about his potential. I really thought that he had the big playability. At 6'3", 212 is what the Dolphins have him rated at right now. I thought he had good size and good explosive playmaking ability. He has a 4.4 speed, although he didn't run at the combine. Now, he came out with Amari Cooper and Kevin White, and I did like him better than Kevin White, but I couldn't put him over Cooper because Cooper is a beast. But however, I think Parker can be an every down, all-around wide receiver. I think he'd be a big body receiver in a red zone. I think he could be a downfield threat. I think he could definitely be dangerous in crossing and slant patterns, which he showed you. One of his longest was 56 yards, and that was on a crossing pattern. So that was a nice play. But he also had a clutch performance. He had that game-winning touchdown catch against the Rams, which was his only fourth-quarter touchdown, by the way, which I'm going to break down some of his situational stats here. So when you look at Devontae Parker, he actually had 56 receptions and 744 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, the interesting part about that is he did that in 8 starts in 15 total games. So in 15 games, he had, well, honestly, it's only 8 starts that he had. So that's 7 catches per game. Because if you do 56 divided by 8 starts, so 7 catches per start, okay? And then 744, we're going to divide it by 8 starts. That's 93 yards a start. However, it's only 4 touchdowns, so 8 divided by 4. So, yeah, it's only 2 touchdowns per game. However, half a touchdown per game. I did it backwards. My bad. So you see that even a half a touchdown, that's still, he's on pace for 7 times 16, 112 receptions. 744 times. Oh, shoot. Doing this on the spot, guys. Times. So he's on pace for 1,488 yards and 8 touchdowns. So obviously he played more than 8 starts, but you see what I'm driving at here. He has the potential, and he quietly had a decent year. Not a great year, but he had a decent year and made some plays here and there that I liked. Looking at his situational stats was interesting. If I get them to load, I saw he had a lot of his damage when the game was on the line or the game was there. The team was behind. Most of his yards and for his career and most of his touchdowns for his career were when the team was behind or within a close game. So that shows you that he knows how to step up into big time situations when they need him. I'd like to see him better as a red zone threat because the one stat I took away, one reception for 15 yards and a touchdown on the opponent's 19-1 yard line in his career. One catch, one touchdown. I'd like to see him be more of the red zone threat that we know he can be than that. So, however, you can go on Roto World or whatever source you use, but Miami Herald reported, or Roto World reported through Miami Herald, that Devontae Parker looked like he blew up on the first day. Now, take that for what it is. I'm sure he did well, and I'm sure he's hungry to get at it, but don't get overly excited until we see the pads on, until we see the game time situations, because that's a puff piece. However, it is nice to see that he's coming in hungry, that the coaches are happy with his effort so far. So, again, I'm really excited about Devontae Parker, and I hope he's going to be as I hope he lives up to the expectations that the media has put on him this year. So, what we know about Parker, we know what he can bring. So the next, Kenny Stills, he's got his contract this year. So Kenny Stills said he wants to focus on leadership. He wants to focus on being the veteran that the team needs, and he's doing that. He's definitely doing that. He's been a leader. He's been studying the playbook. He's been working with the other receivers. He's been working with Tannehill. And it really seems like all the way back to the first preseason that he was here, it really seemed like he had a connection with Tannehill, which was nice to see because not a lot of receivers did. We know Mike Wallace didn't. So it's nice to see that a deep threat has a connection with Tannehill and has the ability to really continue on that progress. And then we move on to Jarvis Landry. Again, we know what he can bring. We've seen that every year. 96 catches and 94. Well, hang on, let me make sure I'm right here. 84 catches his first year, 111 2015, and last year 94 catches. Both his last 2 years he went over 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns each year, for a total of 13 touchdowns in his career. So, yeah, he's not a touchdown machine, but he's a big play machine. He does have a rushing touchdown. He does have a punt return for a touchdown. So, I mean, when you look at his touchdowns, don't look at it as just his receiving touchdown total. Look at his overall total. So he has 15 touchdowns in his career, but he has 1,200 plus yards in kickoff returns, about 700 yards in punt returns, plus his 22, 70, 29, about 3,000 receiving yards. So, I mean, you look at that, he is all around in his career. He has just been a big play receiver, a big play for the Dolphins. I was actually there against the Redskins when he had that punt return for a touchdown. If it wasn't for that, the Dolphins very well could have lost that game because they were playing so ugly. So that play really turned the tide of the game, and that really, if it wasn't for that play, the Dolphins would have lost that game, and it was Jarvis Landry making the play, making a difference as he always does. And you can't put a price on that. The Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, said something about the franchise tag is an option and extension is not mandatory. I know some media is trying to pump it as Adam Gase doesn't seem to be needing Landry going forward, but I highly doubt that's the case. What I think is the case is that they don't want to offer him a deal and they don't want to offer him a deal and insult him with the price in case it's too low. So I really think they know the value of Jarvis Landry, but they just want to get it right and not have to banter back and forth But remember, there's a time after the season where teams can negotiate with their own players as much as they want going into free agency. So there's still time for this to happen. And if he's franchised, I know, yeah, he won't have a long term deal, but you know he'll be willing to play under that pay to until to get his long term deal. So he's not worried. He'll get signed. Remember, Rashad Jones looked like he wasn't going to get signed either. The first big contract he got. So just be patient. So those three I was long-winded on. My apologies. But those three we know. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting. We know those three are locked in for this year. Then you got Leonte Carew, who last year was a little bit of a disappointment. The team traded the third and fourth round pick. They gambled and got the third round pick back. However, they did not get the fourth round back. When Olivier Vernon left, they got a compensatory pick for that. So they lightly gambled. I thought it was worth the risk because Carew had some ability. He's in shape. I mean, the dude is jacked, but he lost a little weight, and like he said, there's no bad weight on him. He just bulked up too much, so he wanted to trim down a little bit to get some of his speed back. He had one big play for a touchdown. That was week 1, and then that was it after that. I'd like to see him turn it around this year and be a weapon that we know he could be, a deep threat. The guy did run a 4.5, but he's got some ability. Kind of like a Golden Tate or Percy Harvin kind of player. So I hope he can turn that around this year, but he's got a long road ahead of him. He's got some competition. Jakeem Grant, his small hands killed him on punt returns. Jarvis Landry had to take over for him a couple times. His couple fumbles killed him. But Grant had a couple big plays for touchdowns, which was nice. He has big playability, but his small hands are a bit of a problem. If he shows some value in offense, he can improve his stock to stay on the team. If he cannot, that's going to hurt his stock because the next guy I'm going to talk about can play offense and can return punts. Drew Morgan out of Arkansas. I'm excited about this kid. Fluent movement, and I know a lot of people are going to compare him to Edelman and all that. I see like a Randall Cobb kind of guy in him. He's 6 foot, 193, but he's slender frame, but he's fearless. He goes over the middle. He's going to take a shot. And hang on to the football. He doesn't care. But he's a very good slot receiver. He's shifty. He's quicker than fast. He has good hands, reliable hands. He was good in OTAs, which doesn't mean all that much. However, the team was really impressed with him, like very impressed with him. So if he comes into camp and keeps that momentum up, and if you impress in OTAs, you're going to get your shot in camp. If you can do that, if he can do that, man, he can be good. He can make the final 53. And then Isaiah Ford, 7th round pick out of Virginia Tech. I liked Isaiah Ford. I really think he has some potential at 6'2", 198. I think he's more like 6'1", 198. But he actually has some pretty good ability to go up and attack the football at his highest point. He's done it plenty of times. His 40 time was quite a bit slow. It was a 4.7 or 4.6. I can't remember, but it was really slow. And he could have done better than that, and his tape suggests that he is better than that. However, he needs to show that he can consistently get open in the NFL. He needs to brush off some of that route running or brush up on some of his route running because he just was not quite, 4.6, 140, there you go. Was not quite where it needed to be. However, his broad jump was 127, so it was a pretty good broad jump. His vertical was 35.5, which shows his ability to go up and attack the football. See, that's why I'm looking at the screen, because I make sure I get you guys the right information. I don't want to give you guys nothing, the bull crap. You come back at me telling me I'm not giving you facts. But yeah, I think Ford, I watched him against some bigger corners kind of ate him up a little bit, but against Cordrea Tankerson, which I mentioned in the cornerback breakdown, he actually beat him a couple times and used his shiftiness to get inside. And he has quick feet, so he has quick first step to get off the line. So that's a good thing. He has the length to keep defenders from getting into him. I think he has some potential, and I think he can be pretty good. But he might make practice squad, or he might make the final 53 at a strong camp. The bottom, after the first three, it's wide open, guys. The wide receiver core could look completely different from last year, and it's completely wide open, so we'll see. But I think Drew Morgan has the Drew Morgan crew. I think had the best chances to make it. But then you got Rashawn Scott, who I thought had a really good chance to make it until he ended up on the PUP list, and that might hurt him because there's a lot of competition. And he's got good size at 6'2". Was he 6'2", like 218 or something like that? He's got pretty good size. Let's see, I'll make sure I'm right here. Excuse me, not 218, 6'2", 204. It's his second year at Miami. He was undrafted last year. He actually replaced Carew on the roster. They deactivated Leonte Carew and activated Rashawn Scott. Both of them made the Final 53 last year, so Scott can make the Final 53. He has a little bit of an advantage over Morgan and Ford and Grant, being that he has the size over Grant and the ability to catch the football over Grant. And he also knows the offense better than Ford and Morgan. So, and he beat Carew out once. So if he can come back sooner than later, he might be pretty good. They might have a pretty good chance of making a roster. I'm trying to say shot and chance at the same time. he might be pretty good to make the roster. But one more guy I was looking at was Malcolm Lewis out of Miami. 5'10", 190, a shiftier guy, more than a speedy guy. I think he's more of a long shot to make the roster. However, that's how wide open this is right now. I mean, even guys like him who undrafted out of Miami have a chance to make it. You got this Mitch Matthews, who's 6'6", 215, who brings some size at a BYU, but at 26 years old and only has 1 year of experience. He's on the outside looking in, but will not be too bad. But two, as usual, I'll give you some of the undrafted guys to keep an eye on. I know a couple people like Stringfellow out of Mississippi, who's 6'2", 219. He has good size. He's actually wasn't bad in college. Wasn't anything crazy. Wasn't a household name. But he wasn't bad. Again, he has a chance to make the roster. Definitely good size there. And Francis Owusu, who's 6'3", 210. Another undrafted rookie out of Stanford who, well, again, outside looking in, but strong camp could put him in position to actually make the roster depending on what happens with the rest. But, I mean, you see the guys I listed were 8, and then you added 2 undrafted, which are 10. That's 10 players. And that's what I'm saying. Scott being on the PUP might have hurt himself if Owusu and Stringfellow show up to be good players. He could be on the outside looking in. Carew could be on the outside looking in. He could get traded or cut. Imagine that. A guy they traded up for last year get cut. If that happens, do not freak out. Bad draft picks happen. There's nothing you can do about that. You do the best you can to draft, and sometimes the guys don't work out like you think. The work ethic isn't there. They just didn't work out quite like you think. If they cut Carew and Grant, all that means is a 5th-round pick with Grant didn't work out the next year. Not a big deal. But Carew, if it doesn't work out, all that means is they made a mistake. They realized it immediately the next year he's gone and someone else took his spot. That's all that means if it happens that way. Don't freak out because that stuff happens. It's not like what Phil with Dallas Thomas, Daniel Thomas. There's a long list of players that he kept sticking with. These guys, this team realizes they don't care if you're undrafted, 1st-round pick, 3rd, 4th, 7th, whatever. If you can play, you start, end of discussion. So it's wide open beyond Parker, Stills, and Landry, and I think it's going to be interesting in camp. It's going to be interesting in training and preseason too. Keep an eye out during the games to see who's doing what. I'm going to try to record some of the stuff to see who does what, who had the most stats, or all that. And after each preseason game, I'll kind of give you a breakdown of how I think players did or what I think who had hurt themselves and who helped themselves. But that's my wide receiver breakdown. Sorry, it's a little longer winded. I think it's the deepest breakdown I've had to do so far. My next video, we get ready to shoot that one. I'll break down the rest of it: quarterback, defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety, and running back, obviously. So I'll break that down for you guys. Keep an eye out for that, and then let's get ready for training camp because it's already here, fellas. Football's here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching.